but from there we'll just have to cope. So yes, bit of a false start there, but we shall move on to what should be the first full game and go from there. But again, as you saw from that first match, it's coalition openings are very LAV heavy, and I suspect that will continue to be the case. LAVs currently are pretty incredible. In testing, I found they've got significantly higher damage output than skimmers, and in a one-on-one fight at close range, it really comes down to RNG, but typically a LAV should win, and that is at skimmers' optimal range, which is quite frankly horrifying. So, we are kicking off again. The spawns are swapped. Again, no one getting rid of their base runner. It is too valuable. It is an additional military build queue when you consider the turret is able to kill. And again, I suspect we'll see the same build. So yeah, one RU salvager for Garm, and then he is all in for getting more CUs. And again, the reason this works is with LAVs being so cost effective, with the base runner turret covering armoured targets as well as being a solid fire support platform. I've got to say, I'm not really agreeing with the probe plays so much, because LAVs are coming out in numbers so early. I don't think the probe is worth the investment. It doesn't offer anything militarily, and he's going to have map presence with the LAVs anyway. So yeah, don't think that's worth it. Because if you look at that as he just lost an LAV, that's just ridiculous for no damage. Poor macro from Tren, doesn't even get this started. Terrible. But that said, the micro is a bit important here. So again, we see the same thing here. So Team 1 spawn is reliant on this dune for pressure, and then Team 2 is reliant on this dune to maintain pressure. And one LAV down. However, he is able to safely get this turret down. He's not taking high ground fire this time. Base runner is going to take all the hits though, so no value from that turret other than pushing away this force here. Again, yeah, it seems Garm has a tendency to be a bit overzealous with his clicking, and that's twice he's almost put, twice he's moved his carry away. That time he caught it in time. So, something to keep in mind. A lot of people would panic and maybe fall back down here. However, my choice here was to instead push over to the extraction, which I know he's got to go to, and get a turret down there. Now, this means he's in a position where he's fighting where I have turret support. Now then. High ground in my favour. Just for a better idea as to why. This, which looks like a relatively small bump here, is actually as high as the peak here. And although Garm puts down a turret, it is killed before it even gets a single kill. So that is 250 CUs down. Let's have a look at units lost. Keep in mind, it does not count deployables in here, so any ALM kills, any logistics kills, any drones are not counted. It's purely for units on this lost tab. Still, that looked like the probe might have been in there. Not sure. Didn't add up. I'm guessing it counts the 3 kills with one being 2 LEVs and one being a probe, but it doesn't count the cost of the probe. Yeah, another turret going down here, which again is pretty good position for it. Really, Garm would need to come in from this direction, and that puts him in the firing arcs of 2 turrets. Again, no unit diversity outside of LAVs and base runner turrets. Tech-wise, no AAV tech. Do we have any tech on here? No AAV tech, no rail tech, no air tech. In the meantime, we do, however, see there is Armor 1 and the Speed Boost upgrade, and that's for both players. So just everything is going into LAVs, which further explains why just running with the one RU salvager makes sense. Simply because you don't have the same kind of RU needs. Going for Strikecraft in this situation is pretty risky. There's base runners which can put down AA turrets, and there's lots of LAVs which have speed boost. I'd say this probe is probably a pretty good choice. It allows him to establish the... Oh my. Misplays. So... yeah, even though there has been the investment in getting the expansion up, I have not properly macroed to get this up and running, which is a huge misplay on my part, but I'm still winning the micro war. My turrets have been claiming kills, I've been holding the high ground, so arguably worth it, but definitely not something you want. Garm's definitely had more income. I'm not sure we can see that at all. Unfortunately not. But I suppose it's where there is the investment. It's afforded Garm the investment in that support cruiser. Unfortunately, that is not going to pay off for him as he's getting raided, and I believe he just lost a logistics module there, which is another 250 and another 100 CUs on an LAV there. So Garm is forced into AAVs. In the meantime, I am in a position to clean up these turrets, which do not have a supporting army with them, and very quick cleaned up, and probably only cost 1 LAV for 500 CUs of turrets destroyed. Now, what is Garm doing here? Is this just misclicks? Yeah, looks like it's just misclicks with the carrier again. So again, right now, Garm is actually in a position where he can focus on his macro, play defensively, as long as he can prevent a cap going down. He's not in a bad position simply because he's out macroing me. And I'm still so focused on keeping my micro on point here, controlling this fight and making the most out of this. I've still not corrected this issue, which I suppose really shows how heavily invested I feel I need to be in micro. In the meantime, giving Garm the choice of defending his eco or stopping me from getting a cap. So he's got to lose another logistics module. Is it going to be 2? Yeah, so that's 500 CUs down. And looks like also a salvager gone. Nope. Just where salvagers are moving back and forth. But yeah, there's no way one AV is going to stop this cap. So, eco damage against Garm, still maintaining this LAV blob, and finally remedying the situation with my economy. However, this AAV is actually incredibly dangerous. How much power is on the carrier currently? Basically none. Level 1 power reserve has been researched. So really, this AAV doesn't even need to stop. It can just keep going on through here. Unfortunately, however, there is a railgun. And turret goes down there. It may seem greedy and excessive, but I'd say all of these turrets right now are worth it, and at least these 3 have definitely paid for themselves as it is. I'm not sure what this AAV is going to be able to do here now, with all these LAVs bearing down it, railgun as well. There is no armor upgrade on this AAV either. Meanwhile, these are fully upgraded LAVs. Those LAVs coming in now, not going to be able to prevent that artifact capture, but they do prevent the LA, or do dissuade these LAVs from chasing. In the meantime, Garm recovering nicely. There's not much pressure on his home at this point. Looking at things though, well, as far as resources, Gomley's sitting on a nice float, a lot of RUs in there that he could be putting to use. In the meantime though, he is going to take his LAVs and try and clean up as many of these turrets as possible, which probably his best chance to do that. Not the best of micro there though. I think in that situation with these behind him, I would have wanted to sweep through and kill as many of these turrets now as possible, but that could be the wrong play with this large LAV blob here, so coming back here and covering this is probably the better option. Again, turrets picking away at those LAVs. Armored Assault covering his expansion. Wouldn't do much alone, but again, with this supporting LAV blob, this Armored Assault is actually pretty safe. Keep in mind, all that needs to happen is these LAVs be out of position once, and those LAVs can come in and kill all of these rails very quickly. There's no armor. Now, expect this time this LAV blob is going to come down and deny this artifact. Oh, and that's huge. What was that about? 1, 2, 3, 4. Probably about 7 or 8 LEVs went down there. However, it's not over just yet, but that is definitely going to have taken the wind out of that LEV blob's sails. And now that LEV blob is going to come in and punish these rails, which have no armor. That LEV blob is now outnumbered, and again, without having expanded the macro, that is going to be huge. Let's see, so how much value can these LEVs get? Looks like a fair amount with the turret support there. These LEVs are actually going to win. Still a reasonable trade considering the numbers disadvantage. Only 3 of Garm's LEVs getting away. But yeah, with Garm having actually built up his macro side, he's got 2 support cruisers, he's got mining off all of his locations, as opposed to this incredibly limited macro. However, if we look at the losses, oof, again in Garmulator's favour, I'm really surprised he's not in a stronger position. How much power is on this carrier at the moment? That looks like power reserves level 2. 2 artifact pickups to trend so far, with a 3rd on the way. And still no armor upgrades on these armored assaults. I suppose that's fine, it's just still means the LAVs can put a reasonable amount of damage through them. Missile batteries on the field, not for AA, although they do cover that. But really they're just here for dealing with these large numbers of LAVs. Yeah, considering that's 3 AAVs against a single turret, due to that 5 armor the turrets have, it is not as favourable as you would expect it to be. Garmulator, meanwhile, using his carrier to tank those turrets and clear them out. And although there are 2 railguns here, they're not going to be doing enough damage to really threaten that carrier. Maybe the other 3 were here, but that is not the case. In the meanwhile, though, again, Garmulator losing his LAVs right here. And it looks like those AVs are going to shut down this base runner and prevent that capture. Right now, really, I would say yeah, getting a support cruiser out and actually getting this carrier on the field would be hugely beneficial for Tren. In the meanwhile, Garm looking to clear these railguns off. Would it be worth focus firing the carrier down? Probably not. I think retreating into here, maybe dealing with that armoured assault and threatening Garm's economy again would be beneficial. But again, getting caught out on this low ground, I don't expect any of these railguns to really survive here. I would have said, yeah, focusing on that one shot goes. No armour, these AAVs really do not hold up well against LAV fire, even without Sunder coming into effect. Support cruiser finally coming out from Tren. Where is it going? It is going over here to improve the income there. Tren sat on some resources, especially RUs, so maybe investing more in his carrier would be worthwhile. Although also picking up armour upgrades, improving the durability of his railguns. Extra health and armor is always welcome. As we can see here now, Garm focusing on getting artifacts of his own, which will empower this carrier further. But I would have said he's got enough here. He definitely hold this southern flank, keep his economy safe. Meanwhile, he is aware that this wreck is not being taken advantage of at all. He knows that he is ahead economically. He just needs to hold that advantage. Mortar coming out. Does get one LAV. Again, keep in mind there is nothing else to stop these LAVs other than these. So at the moment, Tren is at a disadvantage in LAV numbers. Garm is able to sweep. So I almost feel like Garm should just be taking all these LAVs and pushing in, forcing a fight. I do believe he would just win. Might be overly cautious. Looks like he's just trying to play it safe, get as many artifacts as possible. Go for that artifact win. Another probe going down. I suspect that Gomlator has a massive RU bank. Oh, this is very bad. So it's important to keep in mind, around about the 15-minute mark, well, 15 to 16-minute mark, the main dries up. So the CUs will just be gone. Once that happens, you're not going to be able to maintain these kind of LAV numbers. And if you don't have third up, or your second expansion up, you are going to really feel the lack of economy. So as it stands, it's really just a matter of time. Tren needs to relocate his economy out here, secure that. Again, stopping those artifacts though. But really, with the fleet compositions as they are, all that Garm really needs to do is mass these LAVs and overwhelm. Which I suspect he's getting ready to do. Yeah, so he's going to push in, he's going to clean up all these railguns. He's got the high ground. So I think he's pretty much got that. Yeah. And that may just be it. Again, he wins the trade on the LAVs. He's able to kill, I believe, 3 railguns. And again, he's got high ground advantage for this entire fight. However, yeah, he's already won that fight. He's just got so many of his LAVs still up. And he'll be able to clean up these railguns as well. So I would call that game there. Tren has no resources. All that Garm really needed was to win a single LAV fight and it was over. Yeah, and Garm is just now all in, everything he can get on the field. Maybe if Tren had a bit more power in his carrier. But really, I mean, the real cause of this loss was entirely the weak macro, not getting that third wreck up, not getting mining going on here earlier, because I mean, probably missed out on, good grief, at least 1,000 CUs there. What, 500 CUs a minute? Probably a lot more than that. So... still, this carrier is a very real threat. These LAVs now are able to come in and clean up what little is actually back here. So yeah, Garm winning most assuredly off of the macro game. Don't see a comeback here. Although this carrier is getting a lot of value killing these LAVs. And Garm really can't afford it. He is very heavily invested CUs into these units and has a massive RU bank. That said, he's got a good amount of power on his carrier, so I think he'll still be fine. This LAV getting far more value than it really should. Finally goes down. Tren is basically out of resources. That said, Garm still has no armor upgrades at all. So any AAVs that get on his forces, except for, weirdly enough, LAVs, don't have any armor to speak of. So I would almost say if Tren can just keep pumping out AAVs, he can clean up this. Yeah, look at these railguns go down. Garm recycling all of those extra salvages, trying to... but these AAVs, Jesus. That's a little bit too much value against railguns, if you don't mind my saying. If Tren had an economy, then Garm would actually be in serious trouble after that engagement. He lost basically everything. His carrier is on lower health with comparable power. So, one second. I'd almost say that Tren could just push Garm's carrier right now. Yeah, I think if Tren... yeah, just goes all in on that carrier as quickly as he can. Because really the only edge that Garm has is if he can get this artifact in and any railgun support he's got. So he's actually forced to retreat when Tren has no income to speak of. The question is, do you race down and try and kill the carrier as quickly as possible, or do you try and kill these low armor? No, because there's also the base runners. If both of these base runners get in, that's going to be 4 extra power for this carrier, which is an absolute no-no. Yeah, I think it's just, yeah, too much in Garm's favour at the moment, with no support for this carrier. So yeah, simple as that. Even in that bad a situation, if Tren just had more CUs in the bank, just by having AAVs on the field, that still would have been a win. So entirely a loss due to poor macro. Trying to push the base runner out to prevent the cap. It's not happening. And Garm secures a 4th, so that's going to give him a distinct carrier power advantage. He's got the health advantage now as well as the army advantage, so I think this is entirely over. I wouldn't have expected it to be that close considering the eco difference, looking back on it. But I suppose it really does go to show how many good trades those LAVs got early on. But yeah, the weaknesses of no armour upgrades on your railguns. If AVs happen, then you're going to have a bad time. Very bad time. But good game to Garm later there. At the end of the day, just being able to keep a good amount of micro going and then having that macro advantage, as we can see here, winning the day. Tren, more kills, but it doesn't matter at the end of the day if you haven't got the resource to keep up. Now then, I suppose we shall move on to